alternates tonight. We have Kyle Bache. We're a little changed around with how we usually sit, but Rick Russman, member. I am Megan Kelly, chair. Peter Coffin, vice chair to my left, and Robin, our land use administrator. Shaw Tilton will be joining us via Zoom. We're just waiting for him to log in. So until then, we will review our meeting minutes from the November meeting.
Yeah, did you find out about that, the comments on 996, Charlie's comments? I think I'm doing something unusual, but this is referencing to a comment that Charlie made, which I remember him making.
Okay.
But I just, when it got written in the minutes on line 96, it says, upon granting the variance in 2002, and then it says on 98, they came very close to an agreement. I remember him saying that. I just, I think that, and this is a little unusual, but to ask Charlie if he remembers if it was talking about the pre-22, we came close to an agreement, because the planning board never actually heard the case on the using the variance, because it kept on getting, there was problems with the variance, and it kept on getting extended, continued. So I just wanted to be clear in the record that that the planning board didn't come very close after granting the variance, because we never even heard the case. So.
So what are you saying that should say?
Well, I'm just kind of curious if that's actually how Charlie said it, then if that's how it should be in the minutes. But it was my impression that he was talking about the previous multitudinous meetings with Mr. Dufresne, and before that Mr. Cummings, and trying to come to an agreement with for a amended site plan, and you never did. Then they went to get the application, the variance that is expired, and they're seeking to get again, and they filed the application with the planning board before that last variance expired.
Right.
But it never came to the planning board, in the sense that it was never actually was heard by the planning board, because they requested continuances, and then due to a variety of reasons, it was finally withdrawn. So I just thought it should be clear that the comment about upon granting the variance in 2022 doesn't precede the coming very close to an approval. I think we came close to an approval before.
Oh, hold on.
Here, just come up here. If I may. Yeah.
I think,
please help us clarify.
for clarification, Peter, and Peter's right. I probably shouldn't have said the planning board was close to approval, because honestly they hadn't gotten to a point where they'd taken a vote, but we had come close to satisfying the comments from the planning board director as well as from the town engineer. We were almost done satisfying those, and then it would have moved to the approval process through the board. So that's okay.
So Dennis has seen it, and Glenn has seen it.
Yep, we had no, it had been before the planning board. It had been introduced before the planning board. We had addressed comments, resubmitted back to planning board, and we were coming back. Okay, so no, I think that's fair, Peter. Yep.
Then the comments should stand.
These should stand?
Yeah, just let them stand. Because that's exactly what we're talking about.
Okay. Was there anything else that anyone felt needed to be amended? Or I'd entertain a motion to.
And a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. No. Okay. Okay. will.
Yeah. why don't- Yeah, if he comes on, we'll see.
Okay. I'll text him too and just ask if he's able to. All right. I hate to have him start in the middle of something, but our fifth member has not been able to log in yet. So we are going to start the public hearing. If he joins us, he did have a chance to review the last meeting, so he should be pretty well caught up on the comments that were made there. So we'll have, Charlie come back forward. And actually, oh yeah, that can be set up over there. We had a slight issue with microphones not getting charged. So this is the microphone over here. So I don't know if you want to be able to point to things, if you want to bring stuff with you. Yeah, I've been told that this is the best place that you can easily be heard, and there's a button on top of that microphone. So whoever does come up to speak, please just hit the button on the top. And yeah. So what I think would be probably best is just to have you summarize what we went over last time. Anything new or any changes that were made that you submitted. I believe that's what this is. Yes, it's the one that says proposed unit not yet begun. That's your new. Yes. Yeah, thank you.
Can anybody hear me? Okay. Okay. For the record, Charlie Zilch from SCC and Associates, here with Tony Velagor, President and the Board of Directors of the Granite Fields Condo Association. The applicant, Todd Fitzgerald, he couldn't be with us tonight, but he would be watching, I think, from afar. And so here again for continued request for a variance on behalf of the Condominium Association. So the intent of the application is to seek a variance from this board for the owners and the applicant to relocate one of the proposed age-restricted single-family residential units from its current approved location to a new location that would be partially within the 1,000-foot setback or restriction from Route 125. Last meeting, I'd gone through the history of it, how everything had progressed over the years. As you know, the project started in 2013. We kind of went through all of that. I don't think there's really any need to rehash that. Maybe just kind of bring you up to speed from where we are at this last meeting, if that's okay. So, as we noted at the last meeting, the request was previously granted for this on February 10th, 2022 for the former owner, Hawksridge of South Kingston, LLC, and that was operated and owned by Jim Dufresne. As we all know, Jim passed away in 2023, and the rights to the unit have now been deeded to the Condominium Association. And part of our reapplication, or not reapplication, but revised submittal, we gave you that deeded information for their rights, so they solely have the rights to that unit now. So, as we talked about at that last meeting, the Condominium Association would like to finalize the construction of the development, and this unit remains as the final unit to be constructed. Whereas the variance was granted more than 2 years ago, it's no longer valid, and that's the reason we're back here. and the reason why this application is being resubmitted for consideration. So again, this project's been going on since 2013, went through the original developer, wasn't really good at following the rules. Then Jim DeVrain took over, addressed a lot of the drainage concerns, tried to help out, was making some progress, but as I'd stated at the last meeting, condominium association, Jim didn't always get along. And so even though we were making progress with the final siting of this last unit, there were other issues that got involved and made it a little bit more complicated, and he withdrew his application that was before the planning board. So now that the condominium association has the rights of it, they'd like to finish the project. It's been going on since 2013. They still don't have the final coat of pavement down. There's still a few odds and ends to finish off. And what this would do for them, construction of the site, this last unit, the sale of it would be the money that they would use to finance to finish the project. So everybody can kind of live in this development as it was intended back in 2013. Here it is all these years later. So what we're asking for is to be able to place a unit within the 1,000-foot restriction or setback from 125. And what that restriction is basically keeps commercial within the 1,000 feet and residential beyond the 1,000 feet, and is age restricted beyond the 1,000 feet. In this particular case, the line is kind of skewed to the way the development is set up. As you can see, this is the line, the 1,000-foot setback line. Then you have the roadway or the access road that comes into the development that comes in on an angle. And so what we're proposing is one unit, the last unit, to be placed here. And when you look at this, when you come into the development, I've driven this several times and kind of sized it up, and I know where this area is because they've roughed it in before. It's exposed some rock and material here. It's open. You actually pass other units as you're coming into the development before you would get to this one. So to be able to actually discern where that 1,000-foot setback is, you wouldn't be able to do that. It wouldn't look out of place. It would look as if it was part of the development. So why not put it somewhere else? Why not put it in its approved location? Well, we've explored that with this association, with Jim as well. The original location would be in front of 2 units that are already constructed, and the driveways have been placed within where that area was, that unit was supposed to be located. So it'd be a fairly substantial disruption there if you tried to place it back there. There was another area within Bent Grass Circle where they attempted to construct this. It was actually a foundation placed there, and it was done without planning board approval or consent, so that was removed. And again, that area is limited because there's an access easement which takes you into their leach fields that serve the entire development. So that would have blocked that. Then there was one other area that we explored recently while Jim was still with us, and that was at the end of Mulligan Way. And I personally never liked that location. Yes, it met the setbacks between a couple of the units at the very end, but it also disrupted the existing drainage, which was already in place and established and stabilized, which I hate to see any change to that. There's, and this is also the same for the other 2 locations. There's existing sewer lines in place, water lines, there's cable, TV, electric lines in place, street lighting, things like that, and as well as all the landscaping's in place. So to try and put this unit in other locations where it could potentially fit, and I'm saying the only reason it would potentially fit is because you could get the setback between units. It would fit in between units. As far as I'm concerned, it's a fairly significant disruption of a neighborhood that's been disrupted for all these years. It just wants to finish. Putting it here, I asked the question, is it reasonable and does it make sense? And to me, it's reasonable and it makes sense. And then the second question I always ask, above and beyond even so much hardship, I always ask this question, does it adversely impact the abutting property owners? In this case, it'd be the condominium association. It doesn't. As a matter of fact, it fits very well with their development. It can tie into the same septic system that it's supposed to. There's water access right in front of it. The driveway that would serve it has plenty of sight distance. It's relatively flat there. And it still allows them to build their community center if they ever elect to do so in the same spot that it was originally proposed. So it doesn't really disrupt anything. It is a variance, it's relief from a zoning ordinance. But this is also a very unique development in the sense that you have purely commercial development on 125. You have Mark Vine's contractor's yard there. You have an approval not yet constructed for 2 commercial buildings that are going to be trade units. As you transition into it, then you're into a golf course, a clubhouse. Within that clubhouse, you have residential veteran targeted condominium units. So you have a mix of you go from commercial, you go into a recreational and residential, and then purely into residential here. So the site is kind of has this melding from commercial to residential. A hard 1,000-foot setback line doesn't really impact this site. The site is different, it's unique. So I think we have a lot of things going on here, and obviously we're back because 2 years have passed since we had the original approval. But we've made changes based on the conversation at the last meeting. I understand, I will say I was very impatient. It was my 3rd night out, and I do apologize. I get along quite well with Peter. I think we respect each other, known each other for years, and I do apologize to the board and to Peter. I feel that I was impatient. But I think this makes sense. It's good for the community. It's a good opportunity to finish this development. And the next step beyond this would be bringing it to the planning board, who's already had a crack at it once, putting it back in front of the town's engineer, the planning board director, making sure that everything works here, and then going through the site plan process and hopefully finishing this for these people. So I believe I satisfied the changes that we were talking about at the last meeting. I know there was a little bit of unease with calling the unit a specific unit because of its history. I will say that when we did this, when I resubmitted this and had time to think about it. Yeah, go right ahead.
Susan just texted me that she's got a notice that the meeting's ending in 10 minutes. But because Shaw's not...
I think at this point, yeah, Susan can...
Just disconnect, okay.
Message her right now. And
All right, yeah, just... Okay.
No, not a problem. So, no, kind of wrapping it up. So I think I made the changes that the board was looking for. Like I said, I understand the unease with calling out this particular unit, particularly because of the history of it, and just talking about a unit, okay? And that we're seeking approval for putting a unit in this particular position. But I will say that we would request that any action by this board, should you grant this variance, would be contingent upon the fact this is a 34-unit development and no more. And so that your approval, should you approve this or grant this request, we would ask that you make it contingent upon the fact that it doesn't exceed 34 units, so that we're not getting a bonus unit, that another unit goes away to satisfy the 34 unit in total. And that's the maximum amount of units in here. And so with my application and the criteria that I formally submitted, I put that in as part of the variance request. Okay. Any questions? Tony?
Just quickly, the association has had numerous meetings over the development of our community and this particular issue. We've taken a number of votes, and I just want to let the board know that we have had 100% support in going forward and creating another parcel to build. So everyone in the association is looking forward to an approval and hopefully allow us to move forward and complete our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the new information, the adjustments that were made, and I think all of us can appreciate you guys wanting to move forward with this project. So, does the board have any questions for the applicant at this time?
Just curious, is it already sold or pre-sold, this dwelling, or?
It's under agreement.
Under agreement.
Contingency, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Contingent upon approvals.
George,
One
I
other,
wanted to make it clear, I messed up last time on the, kept on referring to 35, which is the clubhouse.
correct.
The actual area, this is the whole thing I was going for, is that the land on which a variance is granted, it has to have the owner's permission. As we established last time, we know now that the homeowners association, I think then did, but definitely now,
Yep.
owns the common area, not the limited common area, the common area.
Right.
That actually is between 34 and 35. And this unit would be, the LCA for this unit would be entirely in that common area.
Yes.
So that satisfies that whole rant I was having about lot 35.
Okay. And the other thing too is,
Actually, it's just the common area. And you explained it well when you said that you'd be offsetting the loss of that common area with.
correct,
Yeah,
right,
by
because this would
doing-
be within that common area. A new limited common area would be established around it, and then the other unit that would go away, that would also lose that limited common area, that would become absorbed into the common area. So it's basically a complete trade-off. I mean, there might be some minor differences in a couple of square feet here and there, but overall, not at all.
Yeah, that's why when you kept on saying, well, that's the clubhouse, I was thinking that whole area on the other side of the dashed line was outside the convertible zone. So,
Nope.
and can you, by the way, explain what the convertible land area is, and if it's defined on any of these plans?
I don't believe there's convertible land here. I think this is all either common or limited common area.
Yeah, it's referred to in your bylaws, so that you can't build outside the convertible area. And I know that bylaws got revised. See if I can find it for you. And I just didn't know if that was the area, the entire R3, Lot 4, whatever, land unit 4 area was convertible.
Convertible land typically only has like a 7 years window in which you can do something with it, so I'm sure
Okay.
if
Yeah.
there was any convertible land that was,
A legal description by metes and bounds of each convertible land within the condominium is set forth in Exhibit D. So, any unit created within the convertible land will be compatible with one or more units constructed on some other portion of the land, except for those changes of the declarant. I don't know if that's just boilerplate.
it must be, because typically what you see for convertible land when you see condominium developments, and this was true of our old office, Leo La Rochelle had put together that plan many, many years ago. There was a large tract of land in the back of the condominium development, and it was considered convertible land, but there was only a 7-year time span. I think that's kind of like a general rule. You have 7 years in which to either develop it, or it just becomes part of the
let it
common
go,
space.
yeah.
So if this was developed, I don't remember seeing convertible land on this plan.
Right.
So if it was, I'm sure that window is long gone now, because this was 2013 when it was approved originally.
We're at 11 years now, so.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I just didn't even know what the term meant, that it was in your bylaws. So.
Well, I think one of the questions I had going, leaving last meeting was, are there any other locations? So I appreciate that you gave us 3 other locations that you did look pretty seriously at, and the reasons why you would prefer not to build there. So for me, this location also seems to make sense. I would hate to, once, for environmental reasons, you establish drainage, you want it, to stay the way it is. So trying to disturb the least amount of land possible would be high on my priority. Does anyone have anything that they want clarified or any comments?
Yeah, I just want to clarify the distance between the furthest point of the proposed unit to the 1,000-foot setback. What's the distance? Like, how far away from the 1,000-foot setback are you asking?
About 950 feet.
It is 950 feet.
About 950 feet, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I gave myself a little bit of a window there.
Yep.
I think what I've shown here is probably like 960.
Okay.
But there's always, I don't want to all of a sudden have an issue with a deck or a
Yep.
set of stairs or something like that, so I asked for 950,
Okay.
which would put you roughly here.
Which in the grand scheme of 1,000 is
Right.
reasonable ask. One of the things we always look at is what is the normal setback and what is a reasonable request.
And so what I did with this is I took, this is basically your standard footprint from the units that you see in here. You can see they're all very similar as far as the square footage and the footprint. Is I placed that and I set it, set back from the closest unit and then moved it over just a little bit and then asked for a couple extra feet beyond that. Just like I said, just a little bit of a fudge factor for decks and steps and things like that.
So, I thought that probably your best argument that you produced, was that the way that it looks going in, would you have units starting on the left and not on the right because of the line?
Right.
Kind of cutting it off there. It certainly would not give the appearance, if you put another unit next to 34, on the near side of 34, it would not give the appearance that it was outside the setback zone, because it certainly looks like you're driving into a housing area. So I appreciated your articulating that one. Well, I just a question that but doesn't show up on there is that cell tower. Is that just off the property?
The cell tower is on the adjacent property just south of us.
Yeah.
I think it's land owned by the Allens, maybe Steve Allen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if they had any restrictions, but that'll come up later.
Okay.
Oh, I understand. You're talking about fall zones.
Fall zones again, yeah.
Fall zones, yeah. No, it's pretty well centered in the middle of that property. I've seen the plans on that before.
Okay, yeah.
And they do establish a fall zone. I think it all stays on that property. Yep.
Yeah, so if the board doesn't have any more questions and the applicant feels comfortable, so for words. Yes, I will do that. I do want to state, we tried to have 5 members tonight. I was hoping to have all 5 members. When we have any members missing, there has to be 3 affirmative votes for something to pass.
Correct.
That is your choice to move forward. I can't tell you one way or the other what to do,
Right.
but I just need to at least state that. So if the board doesn't have any more comments, I will open public comment. We'll start with anyone that would like to speak in favor of this project. If you have any comments that are different from last time, if you spoke before, or anything new to add, please step up to the microphone, state your name and your address. Okay. Does anyone have any comments against the project? Not in favor? Okay, then I will close public comment. And now is the time, if you have any other questions for the applicant, the board needs to ask them now, because as soon as we close the public hearing and go into deliberations, we lose that opportunity, so. Okay.
Would you like me to read through the criteria? I did offer responses to each of them.
Sure, you want to just touch on
Yeah, it'd probably be a good idea to have it read into the record anyhow.
anything that you feel would help your case, especially the hardship portion, which is where we always struggle, is appreciated.
Okay, I could just, if you'd like, I'd just run through
Yeah.
the 5. It wouldn't take but a couple of minutes. So, again, we're looking for a variance, and this is what I submitted, to allow construction of one age-restricted single-family residential condominium unit to be part of the residential village at Granite Fields Condominiums, 34 total unit development, relocated within the 1,000-foot setback, no closer than 950 feet at its closest point from Route 125, within the common land of the development. The request is contingent upon that the density of the development shall not exceed 34 residential units, and that any limited common area proposed in this new location shall be offset by elimination of a limited common area elsewhere within the development to be added back into the common land. The entire property is an existing established mixed commercial residential use. For the criteria, the first is the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and our response is that the proposed location of the relocated unit is in an area that is on and just slightly within the 1,000-foot setback and would appear to be within the planned development. Additionally, access to the community water system and septic system is close by and can be tied to without interruption to the existing occupants. There is an available location for the driveway where ample site distance exists to ensure that this proposed unit will not create unsafe or disruptive access. The supporting LCA area to be dedicated to the unit will not encroach upon the abutting unit or the potential community center and its parking. In all, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. Number two, the spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved. And our response is that this zone allows for age-restricted residential use within the restriction that it has to be set back 1,000 feet from the center line of Route 125. The 1,000-foot setback from Route 125 is intended to maintain a commercial corridor along the highway. When considering this developed site, the existing commercial uses, contractor's yard, proposed commercial condominiums, indoor recreation building, and golf club house achieve that goal. What makes this property special is that there is a transitioning from purely commercial uses located close to Route 125 to recreational uses with an approved by variance 7 units of age-restricted veterans within the clubhouse, close to the 1,000-foot setback. Allowing this 1 unit to be located just within the 1,000-foot setback maintains that uniqueness. Granting the variance preserves the intent of the ordinance, where it allows flexibility in how a property can be managed to transition from one use to another with consideration given to the intensity of the uses. Number three, there is substantial justice in granting the variance. And my response is granting the variance will allow for resolution to a longstanding conflict created by the previous developer as noted. This will allow for the condominium association working with its current developer to move forward with finalizing construction within the development so that the community can fully enjoy their neighborhood as intended. The request will not adversely affect the existing development, but will only enhance it. Number four, the values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished. The response is that the existing development was designed and approved to support 34 total age-restricted single-family condominium units. Relocating 1 unit to this location and banning its previous location ensures that the unit total remains at 34. The unit to be constructed in the requested location shall be in keeping with all of the previously constructed homes and will enhance the value of the community. The area in which this home is to be constructed adjacent to land unit 34 will meld with the existing development. Although the unit is proposed within the 1,000-foot setback, it would not be discernible due to the orientation of the development and the roadway that serves it, meaning that this unit, once constructed, would not be the first unit that you would encounter as you enter the neighborhood, where units 9 and 8 proceeded on the left side of the roadway. And as such, the 1,000-foot setback would be undeterminable. Granting the variance to allow the unit to be relocated to an area that maintains continuity with all other homes and allows for the final completion of development would only enhance the surrounding property values. And last, little enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance will result in an unnecessary hardship. Our response is that the intent of the setback is to maintain a demarcation at 1,000 feet from the center line of Route 125 between commercial uses and age-restricted residential housing. The idea is to limit uses along the highway to commercial as the highest and best use for such a corridor. In this particular case, the property has supported both commercial and residential uses within the same project, and each has benefited from the other. Both uses access from the same roadway, utilize and share much of the same infrastructure, and are fully utilized by all without conflict. Additionally, this development is now close to final build-out with just 1 unit remaining. Every effort has been made to try to locate this last unit to an area within the development. Unfortunately, any potential siting area that would meet setbacks within the development is encumbered with existing access easements, drainage structures, paved driveways, and/or sewage, electrical, water lines, hookups, etc. Siting the home in any of these areas would result in significant disruption of an existing established homes and open up areas already established and stabilized. This request allows one of the age-restricted single-family condominium units to be located in an area not yet stabilized and just inside the setback. This proposal does not adversely affect the intent of the ordinance as demonstrated. Denial of the request results in unnecessary hardship due to the reasons noted.
Quick question, when you say not yet stabilized, what does that mean?
The areas that are stabilized?
You're talking about this area is not yet stabilized?
It isn't, it's been opened up, it's exposed right now, it hasn't been loamed and seeded, and it's basically open, active construction area. They used it for stockpiling at one time,
Oh, okay.
and now
So
yeah.
It needs site work,
It needs to be finalized, correct.
okay. So it looks like you had some wetlands, and then there's an area between that. I could look up and see it. It looks like a mail kiosk or something, but inside the.
Oh, the wetlands are further down the access road that comes in, further down Bentgrass, correct.
As far as the, as the divider there at the wetlands. And so it looks like there's construction going on, or excavation going on just next to the wetland.
I'm unaware of that. I know there was, when you first come in to the right-hand side, there's a, just before a wetland. And I think there's a culvert underneath the roadway there.
Yeah, that's a commercial lot, right? It's outside of Unit 4, right?
Yes, yes,
Unit 4,
yep.
okay.
Yeah, so that's not part of that. That's actually part of the clubhouse unit,
Okay.
which is hopefully I'm not right. I think it's land unit 3 is the clubhouse unit. Yeah.
But that's outside of our unit.
It is.
Okay, so there's no excavation going on in your Unit 4, right?
Oh.
Correct. Okay. Yeah, I got as far as where I could see up there, but didn't, I could see the cell tower, and it looked like it was right close, but deceptive at range, at that kind of distance. Okay. So, that makes sense. No, I think when we get around to doing that,
Okay.
we'll get those questions about the specific.
All set? Okay. Thank you very much for going through that.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, we will close the public hearing and discuss the 5 criteria and take our votes.
Okay.
And then the decision.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate the consideration.
Okay. So criteria 1, the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because. Any discussion on that?
Completing it, it's just completing it, 34 units. I mean, it's just completing the development that was originally proposed, really.
Right.
Little different configuration, but it's 34 units.
Yeah, we're on number 1. Yeah.
Looking down, I was like,
Jumping ahead.
I mean, the construction of this unit won't change the character of the neighborhood.
No.
I mean, it all is gonna look the same. If no one knew about this, no one can tell the difference.
Correct. I would say that's a pretty valid statement for putting it down.
And there's no correlation between the dedicated 1,000 feet and 950 feet.
Very minuscule difference.
Right.
De minimis.
All right.
Third term, de minimis.
De minimis.
Okay.
So the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because,
That the essential character of the neighborhood would not. What did I say exactly? It didn't sound nice.
Would not be changed, and that there's no
No, the common eye wouldn't be
close
able to really
correlation
tell the
between
difference.
the
If this
1,000
unit was
setback.
constructed, no one would be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
If they didn't know about it,
That gets up to what,
something like that.
and it has the appearance of being in the residential neighborhood.
Okay, so the proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the essential character of the neighborhood would not be affected, and the structure has the appearance of being in the residential neighborhood.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Any comment on that? Feel like I'm missing something. Take a vote.
Board members, I didn't know you can vote.
Waiting for motions and then votes. I'm moving out of order here.
No, we don't
Yeah, we
need
don't
to do
need a motion
motions.
for each one. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. If the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because, say, the very same reason as number one.
It is, and
I mean, they're seeking relief from just a small amount, you know, I mean, very
the
slight
spirit of the ordinance
variance.
is to
And the
maintain a commercial corridor off 125, and that would continue to be there.
And the unit is within a reasonable distance. It's a small.
Of the setback, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because, for the same reasons as above, and the unit is the request is a reasonable distance within the setback.
Can you say that again, Megan?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm trying to, so, same reasons as above, and the request is a reasonable distance within the setback.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There is substantial justice in granting the variance because, note, any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by a gain to the general public is an injustice.
And in this particular case, I would argue that the current housing shortage in New Hampshire is germane in that there's adding available housing units is actually a gain to the general public, not, and so would substantial justice, I think, would be done because it would allow the original number of housing units to be constructed, and which is itself a gain to the general public. It's not a loss to the general public.
And the benefit to the applicant is that this project will finally be completed.
Yeah, there
You know, I mean-
would be a loss to the applicant without any gain to the public if it was enforced. I think that's the way I put it.
So there is substantial justice in granting the variance because it would allow the original number of housing units to be constructed, which would be a gain to the public. There would be a loss to the applicant without any gain to the public if it were enforced.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because.
I think the proposed structure is consistent with the, will be consistent with the existing neighborhood.
The neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah. Quite frankly, having one more unit to help share the costs.
Right.
All right, so the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because the proposed structure will be consistent with the existing neighborhood.
Fair enough.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result, that's very hard
case, reason why we've said this is always a hard one for us is that because of the Simplex and Newington versus Newington case, you do have to have specific condition of the property in order to find in favor of the applicant in this, for this part of the variance. And they set examples where, 200 houses in a neighborhood all have the same conditions, rocky soils or whatever, steep slopes, you name it. And it had to be something that other neighborhoods in the area don't have. And we could consider this condominium development to be more or less a unit in the sense that, a property, because it is lot 4, or land unit 4. And it does have unique characteristics in that, ironically, that established by the developer, the 1,000-foot setback, the age restricted, and the steep slopes, whatever. But that applies to this whole property. But and I think Charles' point that it's a mixed-use property is the best, in that there is a transition from all commercial along 125, visible from 125, to residential as you get up on top of the ridge. You come over Hawks Ridge there, and the fact that this whole property, the R3 lot 4, is all part of the same thing, is a mixed-use property, is, if not unique, at least unusual, and it certainly isn't true of the surrounding area. So I would say there is a condition of the property that distinguishes it from other properties in the area, that it's mixed use, and it was designed that way. So, and as far as the fair and substantial relationship existing between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the special application of that provision to the property, is it because it would not change the appearance of the residential area? The fact that you already have 2 units apparently on the left side of the road, as you enter there, you would not get the impression that there was a property that was out of place. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's the purpose of the ordinance, to say, okay, you've got something, a residential area up here, and you've got golf course around it, and you've got the clubhouse, and then you go down to more industrial type of uses. I think we consider it the purposes of the ordinance, which is to maintain a corridor of commercial area along 125. So I would say that we established some special conditions, that it's a mixed-use area, and this incursion of 50 feet wouldn't have the appearance of being out of place. And the public purpose of the ordinance is preserved.
So the mixed use makes it unique.
No,
Mix of residential and commercial.
Yeah.
That is a special condition of the property.
Right. And really, I'm reading this correctly, the topography of the area is such that you aren't confused about the ridge itself, mm-hmm. and the backside of it being residential and the areas leading up the hill to it being commercial. It doesn't, I don't know how I'm saying this, but it doesn't look out of place.
Okay. Kind of blends in.
It transitions nicely,
Yeah,
like from very commercial into
clearly residential.
recreational almost to residential.
Yeah.
And housing development is a reasonable use.
Yes.
Oh, is a reasonable use because, I almost wanted to say it's permitted in some.
Because it does not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
Yes, because it doesn't alter the essential character of.
Of the neighborhood.
Proposed use is a reasonable one because
Housing development does not.
predominantly within the residential area established by this ordinance. And the hardship question comes up all the time, and the reason why I made the comment last time is that financial hardship of the owners, which is obviously changed, can't be used as a criterion. It can be considered, but ZBAs were established just with the purpose of protecting people when zoning laws went into effect, of having property rights taken from them, so that if you had planned to build your kids' houses on your property, whatever, and then zoning came in, it became single-family residential, you essentially had some property rights taken, so that the ZBAs were established to protect you from having the property rights taken. I think originally it was to give an out. That was the primary purpose, and then there's other reasons added to it, but they have come up over the years with a much more closely defined method of determining hardship, and it's based on these criteria. These wording that we just read out of you is out of the state law that came out of Simplex versus Newington case.
All right, there's a lot thrown out, so let me, so the first part for A, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property, because the mixed use of residential and commercial makes this property unique. The incursion of 50 feet into the setback would not change the appearance of the commercial or residential area, and it preserves the commercial corridor. And then the proposed use is a reasonable one, because it is predominantly within the residential area established by the ordinance. Does that sound like it covers? Additional.
Okay,
So that means.
The variance, grant the variance based on the information provided and the votes taken.
I would like to add a couple of conditions that Charlie brought up. And so I think that variance is granted project because we can only grant variance as per the site, as per the proposed plan, we can only grant that variance of 50 feet, basically, from that ordinance that you requested. We can't move properties, we can't approve that whole thing we discussed before. So I'd say that that it must be that the '34 residential and here we go. And that any limited common area proposed shall be offset by elimination of a limited common area elsewhere within the development to be added to common land. And it's just basically, it's just, you can take it right off of Charlie's.
Okay, so the motion currently is, move to grant the variance of 50 feet to Article 110, Section 110.4A, with the condition of, that the max number of units stays at 34. Final approval comes from the planning board, and the elimination of a limited permit.
LCA proposed in the new location will be offset by elimination of LCA elsewhere in the development.
Okay. And that the LCA proposed in this new location shall be offset by elimination of an LCA elsewhere within the development to be added back to the common land.
Yeah. And this all goes, that thing about the planning board approval goes to the thing. We can't discuss whether the 34th unit exists, and that'll all be taken by town council. So we're not approving a 34th unit. We're just approving that if you get to build one, you can get it within 950 feet of the highway.
Okay.
Okay. It's not in our power.
All right, does anyone need me to read that again?
Please do.
Yeah, okay. So the motion is to grant the variance of 50 feet to Article 110, Section 110.4A, with the conditions of the maximum of units staying at 34. The final approval coming from the planning board, and that the LCA proposed in this new location shall be offset by elimination of a LCA area elsewhere within the development to be added back to the common land. Second?
Oh, second, yeah.
Any discussion?
Are you okay with the amended? Yeah.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Congrats.
All right.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Sorry, it took 2 meetings to get there, but I'm glad we did.
Long way around the barn.
A letter, a notice of decision will be to you within 5 business days. There is a 30-day appeal period, so we do always recommend holding off on construction until that 30-day period is up. Am I missing anything else? I mean, you guys still have to go through the planning board process, so you can certainly start that without, but I will get that letter to you. Do you have any questions?
Just one thing I would just say to you, that on the 30 days, so I know you're up against the weather here, I don't know what Pedro will do as far as whether or not he would grant it, give it to you because the 30 days doesn't run, but I mean, when you build like that, you're doing it at your peril. So if somebody did appeal,
Well, it says go to the planning board, so I guess.
yeah, it's gonna take time. Yeah, it's gonna take some time. Yeah,
So
it's gonna,
by the time it gets to the planning board, it'll be.
right, be 30 days probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Meeting adjourned?
Sorry.
Sorry.